Could ancient prayers reshape destiny? Did celestial forces truly guide hearts in an age of faith and superstition? Between the years 500 and 1500, get ready to explore tales where love met the divine in ways that will leave you wondering about fate itself. Number 7. The Lovers of Hell, a swift and fiery hand. Deep within the grim-shadowed keep of Blackwood, a fortress perched on windswept hills in the northern marches, a forbidden love began to burn with a dangerous intensity. Sir Kaelan, a knight sworn to the service of Baron Valerius, found himself ensnared by the striking beauty and quiet melancholy of Lady Isolde, the Baron's young wife. Their gazes met across the cold, draughty halls during banquets filled with boisterous knights, and in the quiet of the castle's chapel, where their shared glances became a silent, desperate prayer, the Baron, a man of rough temperament and little tenderness, remained oblivious to the tender shoots of affection blossoming under his very roof. But in the secluded corners of the castle, in hushed whispers beneath the ancient tapestry of the ladies' private chambers, their passion grew. They knew their love was a grievous sin, a betrayal of oaths and faith, but the pull was undeniable, a force that seemed to twist their very souls. The winter months deepened, the isolation of Blackwood Keep. Snow piled high against its thick walls, and the howls of wolves echoed through the valleys. It was during this desolate time that Sir Kaelan and Lady Isolde's secret meetings became more frequent, their illicit embraces more fervent. They spoke of running away, of finding a distant land where their love could flourish free from the shackles of societal judgment and the Baron's wrath. Yet fear held them captive as much as their sinful desires. They knew the Church's pronouncements on adultery, the eternal damnation promised to those who strayed. Still, they plunged headlong into their forbidden paradise, ignoring the gnawing guilt that coiled in their hearts like a venomous serpent. One particularly tempestuous night, with the wind rattling the leaded windows and sleet lashing against the stone, Sir Kaelan managed to slip into Lady Isolde's bedchamber. The storm outside mirrored the tumultuous storm within their souls. Candles flickered, casting dancing shadows across the heavy drapes and the lovers' anxious faces. They spoke of desperate plans, of the impossible hope of a life together, of the terrible risk they took with every stolen moment. Profound sense of dread, colder than the winter air, seemed to seep into the very stones of the room. It was not a physical chill, but a spiritual one, a silent warning that permeated the chamber's every corner. Lady Isolde suddenly clutched her throat, her breath catching. Sir Kaelan felt a prickle of unease on his skin, as if an unseen presence had just entered the room. The air around them grew impossibly still. The howling wind outside suddenly silenced, replaced by a deafening hush. Then, from the very stones of the fireplace, a faint glow began to emanate. It was not the warm, comforting light of embers, but a cold, spectral luminescence that pulsed with an unnatural intensity. The light grew, bathing the room in an eerie, pale blue. Sir Kaelan felt an unshakable terror seize him, a terror unlike any he had known on the battlefield. Lady Isolde, her face pale as parchment, pointed a trembling finger towards the corner of the room, her lips moving but no sound escaping. There, slowly coalescing from the shimmering blue light, appeared a form. It was not human, not animal, but an indistinct shape, vast and overwhelming, radiating an unbearable heat despite the cold light. It had no discernible features, yet it radiated an ancient, terrible sorrow and an unwavering, righteous fury. A voice not heard with the ears, but felt in the very marrow of their bones, reverberated through the chamber. It spoke, not in words, but in an ancient language of pure judgment, a sound that pierced their souls and laid bare every sin, every broken vow. Lady Isolde let out a silent scream, pressing herself against the cold stone wall as if to disappear into it. Sir Kaelan felt his knees buckle his sword, which he always carried, felt like lead in its scabbard, useless against this unearthly adversary. The heat intensified, a searing blaze that seemed to scorch their very spirits without touching their flesh. They saw not fire, but felt its consuming agony, an inferno of guilt and consequence. The indistinct form seemed to expand, filling the entire chamber, pressing in on them, suffocating them with its immense, holy presence. Suddenly, and without warning, the spectral light flared one last time with an unbearable brilliance, then vanished. The room plunged back into darkness, broken only by the flickering candlelight. The wind outside roared back to life, rattling the windows with renewed fury. The air was no longer cold, but stiflingly hot, as if a furnace had been briefly opened within the room. Sir Kaelan stumbled backward, gasping for breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looked towards Lady Isolde, expecting to see her cowering, but she was gone. The window stood open, a gust of wind blowing the drapes inward. He rushed to it, peering out into the swirling snow and darkness. But there was no sign of her. Her silken nightgown lay crumpled on the floor near the hearth, as if she had simply dissolved from it. The next morning the castle was in an uproar. Lady Isolde had vanished. Searches were mounted patrols sent out into the snow-choked valleys, but no trace of her was ever found. Sir Kaelan, traumatized and hollow-eyed, told no one of the spectral form or the searing heat. He could not, for the words would surely condemn him as mad or worse. His love for Isolde, once a burning flame, was replaced by an icy dread and an overwhelming conviction that they had been judged. He believed that the divine hand had intervened, not to unite them, but to tear them apart with a terrifying display of its power, to remind them of the sanctity of vows and the consequences of sin. He spent the rest of his days in silent penance, a ghost haunting the castle halls, forever remembering the spectral presence and the unbearable heat that had consumed his love and his hope. The ancient chronicles of the region, the Analama Keza, speak of Lady Isolde's disappearance as a mystery, a divine judgment for her family's past transgressions, never mentioning Sir Kaelan's name in connection to it, or reasons known only to him. Number 6. The Pilgrimage of Two Hearts, a holy meeting. In the sun-drenched lands of southern France, during the early 11th century, the spirit of pilgrimage pulsed strongly. People from all walks of life, from humble peasants to noble lords, undertook arduous journeys to distant holy sites, seeking blessings, penance, or divine guidance. It was on such a journey along the dusty roads leading to the shrine of St. James in Compostela that the paths of Lady Eleanor of Aquitaine, not the Eleanor of Aquitaine, but a woman of similar standing from a minor noble house, and Sir Julian of Brittany converged. Both had embarked on the pilgrimage for deeply personal reasons, though their motivations were quite different. Lady Eleanor sought solace from a broken betrothal, a political alliance that had fractured, leaving her heart bruised and her future uncertain. Sir Julian, a valiant knight, had sworn an oath to undertake the pilgrimage after surviving a terrible battle, seeking divine clarity on his purpose in life, for he felt a deep yearning for a connection beyond the battlefield. They traveled in separate groups, for propriety demanded it, but their paths intersected frequently. They shared meals by roaring campfires under the vast canopy of stars, exchanged polite greetings during brief stops at wayside chapels, and occasionally found themselves walking side by side on narrow mountain paths, their conversations slowly blossoming from formal pleasantries into deeper, more meaningful exchanges. Eleanor found herself drawn to Julian's quiet strength and the thoughtful depth in his eyes. Julian, in turn, was captivated by Eleanor's resilience and the gentle wisdom she carried despite her youth. They spoke of faith, of trials, of the hope that burned within them for a life guided by divine grace. As they approached a particularly revered stopping point, a small ancient monastery dedicated to Saint Michael, the Archangel, a sense of profound reverence settled upon them. The monastery was known for its miraculous spring said to reveal truths to those who drank from it with a pure heart. Upon their arrival, the two separate groups decided to spend the night seeking spiritual refreshment before continuing their journey. That evening, as Vespers concluded and the soft glow of twilight settled over the monastery grounds, both Eleanor and Julian felt an undeniable pull towards the miraculous spring. a feeling not unlike a command. They arrived at the same time, finding themselves alone at the water's edge. The air still and cool. They knelt side by side, dipping their hands into the clear, cold water, and drank. As the water touched their lips, a strange sensation enveloped them both. It was not a vision in the traditional sense, no dazzling light or celestial choir, but a profound, overwhelming clarity of purpose. Eleanor felt an immediate, strong certainty that her journey had been meant not just for spiritual healing, but to bring her to this moment, to this man. It was as if a veil had been lifted from her eyes, revealing a path she had never before seen, a path entwined with Julian's. Julian simultaneously felt a powerful confirmation of his own deepest desires. The yearning he had felt, not for glory or power, but for a true partnership, a love consecrated by faith, now had a face. He saw Eleanor not merely as a fellow pilgrim, but as the answer to the unspoken prayers of his heart. It was a silent, internal revelation, a divine whisper directly to their souls, confirming that their meeting at this holy site was no mere coincidence, but a part of a larger sacred design. The monastic chronicles of St. Michael the Liber Monastery, Sancti Michaelis, later recorded that on that night, two souls, cleansed by the spring, recognized the light of God within each other, and their union was surely blessed by the archangel himself. They rose from the spring, their eyes meeting with a new understanding, a profound recognition that transcended polite conversation. There were no grand declarations, no immediate vows, only a quiet, deep certainty. The following days of the pilgrimage were marked by a subtle but powerful shift in their interaction. They continued to travel with their respective groups, but their connection was now palpable, acknowledged by a silent understanding that passed between them. They spoke of their newfound clarity, the profound sense of destiny that had settled upon their hearts. It was a love that felt less like a fiery passion and more like a gentle, unwavering dawn, guided and confirmed by the sacred experience at the spring. Upon returning to their respective lands, the memory of the miraculous spring and the divine clarity it had brought remained vivid. Eleanor, no longer heartbroken by her past betrothal, felt a new sense of purpose. Julian, his knightly duties now imbued with a deeper meaning, sought to pursue the path that had been revealed to him. After a respectful period, Julian journeyed to Eleanor's family estate, not with a standard proposal of alliance, but with a testament of shared spiritual experience. He spoke of the spring, of the profound truth it had unveiled, of the unwavering conviction that their union was divinely intended. Eleanor, with the full support of her family, who observed the genuine transformation in her spirit, accepted. Their marriage was not one of mere convenience or political strategy, but a union born from a moment of profound divine intervention, witnessed and confirmed by their shared spiritual experience. They lived their lives in a way that honored that moment, their love a testament to the quiet power of divine guidance in shaping human hearts. Their tale, whispered among pilgrims for generations, became an example of how the path to salvation could also lead to a love blessed by heaven itself. Number 5. The Knight and the Enchanted Lady, the Saint's Blessing. In the shadowy depths of a forgotten forest, somewhere in the wilds of 10th century Brittany, tales of ancient magic and lingering enchantments were not mere whispers, but a tangible part of daily life. Sir Ronan, a valiant knight known for his piety and unwavering sense of justice, found himself drawn into a tale woven from such magic. He had been tracking a robed boar for days, deep within the tangled woods, when he stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an otherworldly twilight. There, by a shimmering pool, sat a lady of breathtaking beauty. Her hair, like spun moonlight, cascaded around her, and her eyes, the color of emeralds, held a sorrowful, haunting gaze. Her name, she revealed, was Lyra. But Lyra was not an ordinary woman. She was, as she tearfully confessed, under a powerful enchantment. A wicked sorceress, consumed by jealousy, had cursed her, binding her to the forest, forcing her to live in a perpetual state of longing, unable to truly connect with any human soul, her beauty, a lure that brought only despair. Any man who looked upon her with love would feel an irresistible pull, but Lyra herself would remain emotionally detached, her heart encased in ice. Sir Ronan, captivated by her beauty and moved by her plight, felt the immediate powerful surge of affection, but he also sensed the hollow nature of the connection, a strange, unnatural emptiness behind her alluring eyes. He knew this was not a true love, but an unholy snare. Disturbed by the unnatural spell that held Lyra and himself, Sir Ronan sought guidance. He had heard of a reclusive hermit, Brother Malachi, who lived deep in the forest, a man renowned for his profound holiness and his communion with the divine. Brother Malachi was said to possess an unshakable faith and a connection to the spiritual realm that allowed him to unravel even the most complex enchantments. With Lyra by his side, her silent, haunted presence a constant reminder of their predicament, Sir Ronan embarked on a quest to find the holy man. The journey through the enchanted woods was fraught with strange illusions and disorienting paths, but Ronan's unwavering faith propelled them forward. When they finally found Brother Malachi's humble dwelling, a small hut nestled among ancient oak trees, the hermit greeted them with a knowing look. He had, he said, been expecting them. He listened patiently as Sir Ronan recounted Lyra's tale and his own growing unease. Brother Malachi nodded, his eyes fixed on Lyra, a look of profound pity on his wizened face. He recognized the nature of the enchantment, a binding spell designed to entrap and mislead. He knew that for true love to bloom, the demonic influence had to be broken, and the divine spirit had to intervene. Brother Malachi led them to a moss-covered altar he had fashioned from an ancient stone adorned with simple crosses. And wild flowers, he instructed Sir Ronan and Lyra to kneel. Then the hermit began to pray, his voice low and resonant, invoking the names of the saints and the heavenly host, calling upon the power of the Most High. As he prayed, the very air around them seemed to thicken, not with a physical density, but with a palpable spiritual presence. A gentle ethereal light began to filter through the dense canopy of trees. Not sunlight, but a soft, shimmering luminescence that seemed to emanate from above. It bathed Lyra in its pure radiance, as the hermit's preamble. Her emerald eyes, once haunted, filled with tears that streamed down her face. A deep guttural cry escaped her lips, a sound of agony and release, as if something ancient and dark was being torn from her very being. The strange, unnatural allure that had captivated Sir Ronan began to recede, replaced by a sense of raw, authentic vulnerability. The light intensified, focusing solely on Lyra, and Ronan watched spellbound as her form seemed to ripple, as if shedding an invisible skin. The unnatural chill that had accompanied her presence vanished, replaced by a warmth that felt like true life. This was not a slow process, but a sudden divine cleansing, an immediate breaking of the enchantment performed directly by the spiritual power invoked by the holy man. Chronica Eremitae Britanniae, a monastic collection of miracles, later recounted that through the unwavering faith of Brother Malachi, a soul bound by wicked arts was liberated by the hand of God, revealing the true heart within. When the light faded, Lyra stood before them, still beautiful, but now truly herself. Her eyes, still emerald, were no longer haunted, but shone with a genuine warmth and profound gratitude. The strange cold detachment was gone, replaced by a real human emotion. Sir Ronan looked at her, and where he had once felt an unnatural pull, he now felt a true, deep affection, a recognition of her genuine spirit. The enchantment was broken, and with it the artificial barrier that had prevented real love. From that moment, their love was no longer a forced magical attraction, but a natural blossoming connection. They spent weeks with Brother Malachi, learning from his wisdom, allowing their spirits to heal and their bond to strengthen. Sir Ronan, no longer a victim of the sorceress's spell, found a love that was pure and unburdened. Lyra, freed from her curse, discovered the true depth of human affection. They eventually left the hermit's woods, their hearts united not by magic, but by a divine intervention that had cleared away the darkness and allowed a genuine love to take root. They returned to the world, their story a testament to the power of faith over enchantment and to the sanctity of love purified by divine grace. Number 4. Hildegard's vision and a love match, a prophetic union. In the heart of the Rhineland, during the 12th century, the renowned Abbess Hildegard of Bingen was a beacon of spiritual wisdom and prophetic insight. Her visions, which she meticulously recorded, were believed to be direct communications from the divine, guiding not only matters of faith, but also advising rulers and common folk alike on all manner of life's intricacies. It was to this revered mystic that Lady Isabella, a young noblewoman from a powerful but fractious family, and Lord Heinrich, a respected but equally burdened nobleman from a neighboring domain, separately sought guidance regarding a complicated matter of betrothal. Their families had been locked in a long-standing, bitter land dispute, making any thoughts of alliance impossible, despite the growing affection that had blossomed between Isabella and Heinrich during a brief accidental meeting at a regional fair. Isabella felt a deep, unsettling sadness at the prospect of being forced into a marriage with a much older lord from a distant region, a political match designed to strengthen her family's power but at the cost of her own happiness. She felt a connection to Heinrich that transcended the feud, a sense of rightness in their shared thoughts and quiet understandings. Heinrich, similarly, was being pressured to marry into a family that would provide military strength against Isabella's kin, an alliance that felt morally wrong given his feelings for Isabella. Both longed for a resolution, a way for their love to full-scale war between their houses. They wrote to Hildegard, detailing their dilemma, their growing affection, and the seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Hildegard, in her quiet scriptorium, received their separate letters. She was known to consult the divine, not just for grand prophecies, but for the very personal struggles of those who sought her counsel. She meditated upon their predicament, seeking clear guidance from her visions. Days passed in quiet contemplation, filled with prayer and spiritual reflection. Then, during one of her profound visionary trances, the answers came to her with dazzling clarity. She saw not just the two young nobles, but the intertwining of their family lines, the roots of the dispute, and the potential for a peaceful resolution that would benefit both houses and the wider region. In her vision, Hildegard witnessed a shimmering golden thread, delicate yet unbreakable, connecting the hearts of Isabella and Heinrich. This thread stretched beyond the earthly realm, leading up to a celestial hand that gently guided it, signifying a divinely orchestrated connection. She saw that their union was not merely a romantic attachment, but a key to healing the ancient feud, a union that would bring peace and prosperity to their lands. She saw the resolution of the land dispute, not through conflict, but through a shared commitment to the land itself, working together rather than fighting over it. The vision also showed her the precise terms by which the families could reconcile specific concessions and agreements that would satisfy both sides, details that no ordinary negotiation could have unearthed. This was a clear, direct, divine intervention, providing a map for both their love and their family's future. The Scivias, Hildegard's famous collection of visions, while not explicitly detailing this specific incident, speaks broadly of her receiving divine counsel on secular matters, including the resolution of feuds and the arrangement of marriages. Upon awakening from her vision, Hildegard immediately dictated 2 separate letters, one to Isabella and one to Heinrich, carefully outlining what she had seen. She did not merely give her opinion, she conveyed the divine directive. She told them that their affection was not a folly to be discarded, but a sacred bond ordained by God Himself to bring peace to their warring houses. She described the specific agreements for land and resources that would allow both families to prosper, and insisted that their union was the cornerstone of this new era of reconciliation. Her words were filled with a spiritual authority that left no room for doubt. When Isabella received Hildegard's letter, she was stunned. The precise details of the land agreement, the specific terms of reconciliation that she had never even conceived, resonated deeply. Her heart soared with hope, seeing a path forward where only despair had existed. Heinrich, too, received a similar letter, his skepticism giving way to profound awe as he read Hildegard's words, which echoed his own unspoken desires, and presented solutions he had deemed impossible. The very idea that his love for Isabella was a divinely sanctioned instrument of peace filled him with unwavering resolve. Armed with Hildegard's prophetic counsel, Isabella and Heinrich approached their respective families. The initial resistance was strong, but the authority of Hildegard of Bingen was immense, her reputation for divine insight unchallengeable. When Isabella's father read the precise terms of reconciliation outlined in Hildegard's letter, terms that promised a fair and equitable division of resources and a clear path to prosperity, he was astonished by their wisdom and balance. Heinrich's family, equally swayed by the detailed proposal and the spiritual weight behind it, began to reconsider. The idea that this marriage was not merely a political gamble, but a divinely appointed mission to end generations of strife, began to take root. Negotiations, guided by the uncanny foresight provided by Hildegard's vision, proceeded with remarkable speed and an unusual spirit of cooperation. The marriage of Isabella and Heinrich was celebrated not as a reluctant alliance, but as a joyous union, a testament to divine will. Their love, once a secret sorrow, became a public symbol of peace. Their children, born into an era of reconciliation, inherited a legacy of cooperation rather than conflict. The land dispute which had caused so much bloodshed gradually faded into memory. Their story, while not recorded in every grand chronicle, was passed down through the region, a quiet legend of how the divine hand, through the vision of a saintly abbess, brought love and peace to a fractured land. Number 3. Saint Valentine and the Jailer's Daughter. A miraculous bond. In the bustling, perilous city of Rome, during the turbulent 3rd century, lived a humble priest named Valentine. This was a time of great persecution for Christians under the Roman Empire, and many believers faced imprisonment, torture, and even death for their faith. Valentine, despite the immense danger, continued his ministry, offering comfort, counsel, and even performing clandestine marriages for Christian couples who wished to solemnize their vows in the eyes of God. His acts of defiance and his unwavering faith eventually led to his arrest. He was brought before Emperor Claudius II, known as Claudius Gothicus, a stern ruler determined to stamp out the burgeoning Christian faith. Valentine's quiet courage and wisdom intrigued the emperor, who for a time considered sparing him. However, when Valentine refused to renounce his Christian faith, he was condemned. He was placed under the custody of a Roman judge named Asterius, a man of power and influence, but also of a certain curiosity. It was during his imprisonment that Valentine found himself in unexpected company. Asterius had a daughter, Julia, a young woman known throughout the household for her intelligence and gentle spirit, but also for a profound affliction. She was blind from birth. Her world was a perpetual darkness, a silence of sight. Julia, drawn by the stories of Valentine's sanctity and his deep faith, began to visit him in his cell. She brought him food, tended to his needs, and listened intently as he spoke of his God, of love, and of the light of faith. Their conversations grew longer, deeper. Valentine, despite his captivity, felt a profound connection to Julia, touched by her innocent spirit and her quiet acceptance of her affliction. He prayed for her often, not just for her physical sight, but for her spiritual clarity, that she might see the light of the divine. He felt a deep paternal affection for her, a love born of shared humanity and spiritual longing. One day, as their conversations turned to the nature of God's miracles, Julia asked Valentine if his God could truly make the blind see. Valentine, moved by her unwavering faith and her genuine yearning, felt a powerful conviction surge through him. He placed his hands gently over Julia's eyes, a simple gesture of prayer and compassion. He closed his own eyes and prayed with all his heart, not just for a miracle, but for Julia's profound understanding of God's love. It was a prayer filled with pure, selfless love for another human being. As his hands rested on her eyelids, a soft, ethereal light began to emanate from his fingertips, pulsing with a gentle warmth. Julia gasped, a sudden tremor running through her body. Slowly, miraculously, the darkness that had shrouded her eyes since birth began to recede. Faint outlines appeared, then colors, then the clear, vibrant world around her. She blinked, tears streaming down her face, tears of wonder and overwhelming joy. She saw Valentine's kind face, the rough stone walls of the cell, the light filtering through the small barred window. It was a clear, undeniable, divine intervention. A direct act of God's power responding to Valentine's prayer and Julia's faith, performed for a specific, immediate purpose: to restore her sight. The Passio Sancti Valentini, an ancient account of the saint's martyrdom, records this miracle, stating that, through the servant of God, the Lord opened the eyes of the blind girl. And all who witnessed it marveled at the power of the Most High. Judge Asterius, Julia's father, was summoned immediately. He entered the cell, expecting to find his daughter, as he had always known her, but instead found her weeping tears of joy, her eyes wide with newfound sight. He was overwhelmed with disbelief, and then with profound awe. The miracle was undeniable, a testament to a power he could not comprehend. This miraculous healing had a profound impact not only on Julia, but on her entire household. Asterius and his entire family, including 46 members of his household, were so deeply moved by this clear demonstration of divine intervention that they renounced their pagan beliefs and embraced Christianity. The bond between Valentine and Julia deepened into one of profound spiritual love and mutual devotion. She became his faithful disciple, her newfound sight a constant reminder of the divine grace he had brought into her life. Even when Valentine was condemned to be beaten with clubs and then beheaded outside the Flaminian Gate, Julia remained steadfast in her faith. On the day of his execution, before he was led away, Valentine is said to have sent Julia a final message, a note that read, "From your Valentine." This final gesture, a tender farewell from a spiritual father and healer to his beloved charge, sealed their bond in history, a testament to a miraculous connection, forged by divine power and enduring love. The day of his martyrdom, February 14th, became a day associated with expressions of love, perhaps in quiet remembrance of the divine healing that brought light and faith to a young woman through the selfless love of a saint. Number 2. The miracle of the lover's tomb, a divine consecration. In the windswept lands of medieval Ireland, where ancient stones and Christian faith intertwined, a tale of forbidden love and divine recognition unfolded. Lady Maeve, daughter of a powerful chieftain, and Finn, a skilled warrior from a rival clan, found their hearts hopelessly entangled. Their families, locked in a bitter centuries-old feud over land and cattle, would never sanction their union. Their love was a dangerous secret. Stolen glances across battlefields, whispered words during fleeting truces, and the constant crushing weight of their impossible situation. They yearned for a life together, a world where their family's hatred did not define their future. Despite the insurmountable obstacles, their love only deepened. They met in secret in a hidden glen, where an ancient standing stone marked a forgotten pagan burial ground, now quietly blessed by a Christian cross carved into its base. They spoke of fleeing, of finding a distant monastery or a foreign shore where they could escape the cycle of vengeance. But their loyalty to their clans, their sense of duty, held them tethered to their tragic fate. They knew that their love, if discovered, would only ignite further bloodshed. A new wave of violence in the name of honor and retribution. One particularly harsh winter, with a severe famine gripping the land, the feud escalated. A final decisive battle was set to determine dominance. Maeve and Finn, each on opposite sides, faced the grim reality that they might meet their end by the hand of the other's kinsman. In a desperate final act of love, they arranged one last secret meeting in their hidden glen before the battle. They met under the cold gray sky, their faces etched with sorrow. They spoke of their love, their unwavering devotion, and the unbearable pain of their inevitable separation. They swore to each other that if they could not live together in this world, their souls would find a way to be united in the next. They embraced a silent farewell, a profound sorrow filling the sacred space around them. The battle was fierce and bloody. Maeve and Finn, true to their word, fought valiantly for their respective clans, their hearts heavy with grief. In the chaos of the melee, neither struck the other. However, as the sun began to set on the crimson-stained field, both were struck down by the blades of anonymous enemies. They fell not far from each other, their last breaths whispers of each other's names, their eyes fixed on the distant hills where their secret glen lay hidden. Their bodies, along with those of countless others, were collected and brought back to their respective clanlands for burial. The chieftains, though victorious, felt the heavy toll of the conflict. However, a strange and miraculous event unfolded on the morning of their separate burials. On the chieftain's land, where Maeve was to be interred in the family tomb, 2 delicate white roses, unlike any seen in that harsh land during winter, were found growing directly from her grave mound. Simultaneously, on the rival clan's land, where Finn was to be buried in the warrior's resting place, 2 identical white roses blossomed from his grave. This was a clear, undeniable sign, a supernatural occurrence in the depths of winter. The elders, both pagan and Christian, recognized it as a powerful omen. The Annals of Ulster, a collection of ancient Irish historical records, though not mentioning this specific event, often speak of strange omens and miraculous signs appearing in connection to significant events or individuals. The white roses, growing against all odds, seemed to beckon. When the clansmen, both awe-struck and bewildered, gathered to witness this strange phenomenon, they realized drawing from Maeve's tomb seemed to lean towards the west, while those from Finn's tomb leaned towards the east, as if reaching for each other across the divided land. The chieftain and the rival leader, hardened by war, felt a sudden, profound shift in their hearts. This was not a curse, but a blessing, a divine sign of pure love transcending earthly hatred. It was a clear, unmistakable intervention from a higher power, showing that the love between Maeve and Finn was pure and sanctioned, despite the human conflict that had surrounded them. Moved by this undeniable miracle, the 2 chieftains, their long-standing animosity momentarily forgotten, made a monumental decision. They agreed to bury Maeve and Finn together in the glen, where they had shared their forbidden love, the very place marked by the ancient standing stone and the carved cross. As their bodies were laid side by side in a single tomb, amidst the frozen earth, the white roses on their respective burial sites withered, but in the glen, from the very spot of their shared grave, a single intertwined rosebush began to sprout. It was a hybrid, a symbol of 2 lives united, blooming vibrantly even in the depths of winter. This miracle, a divine consecration of their forbidden love, became a legend. The glen became a sacred place, a neutral ground where the 2 clans, over generations, slowly began to reconcile. Tomb became a pilgrimage site for those seeking reconciliation, for lovers facing impossible odds, and for all who believed in the enduring power of divinely blessed love. The story of Maeve and Finn, the lovers of the glen, became a powerful reminder that sometimes the divine hand intervenes not just to guide the living, but to consecrate the love of those who had passed, transforming sorrow into a testament of enduring hope, and reconciling sorrow into a testament Number 1. Tristan and Isolde, the potent, unbreakable spell. Among the most famous and tragic love stories of the medieval world, the tale of Tristan and Isolde stands as a testament to an unbreakable bond forged not by human choice alone, but by a force far grander and more mysterious. This was a love so powerful it defied kings, oaths, and even death, a love often attributed to a magical potion, but one that many believe to be infused with a kind of inescapable divine destiny. Tristan, a valiant knight from Cornwall, was sent to Ireland to escort the beautiful Princess Isolde back to his uncle, King Mark, who intended to make her his queen. It was a perilous journey across the treacherous seas, fraught with danger and the weight of Tristan's duty. On board the ship, Isolde's elderly nursemaid, Brengane, was tasked with preparing a special potion, a love philter intended for King Mark and Isolde to ensure their lasting affection and the strength of their union. This was not a mere concoction, but a brew imbued with ancient magic, blessed by powerful druidic rites, or so the legends claimed, a substance designed to bind souls with an unbreakable, almost supernatural bond. However, a terrible mistake occurred. While at sea, thirsty from the long voyage, Tristan and Isolde unknowingly drank the philter together, believing it to be ordinary wine. The moment the liquid passed their lips, their fates were sealed. A searing heat like liquid fire spread through their veins, and their eyes met no longer with the polite distance of knight and princess, but with an overwhelming, consuming passion. It was an immediate, irreversible transformation, a profound shift in their very beings. The Roman de Tristan, a 12th century poetic cycle, describes this moment with an almost spiritual fervor, stating that the potion worked upon them with such force that no power on earth could sunder their spirits. For it was as if God himself had woven their souls together. From that moment on, their love became an undeniable force, an obsession that defied all reason and morality. They struggled against it, for they knew the gravity of their actions, the betrayal it represented to King Mark, to their oaths, and to God. They fought against the relentless pull, trying to deny the feelings that overwhelmed them, to convince themselves it was merely a fleeting infatuation. But the potion, this potent concoction, proved stronger than any human will, stronger than duty, stronger than fear of damnation. It was as if their souls were physically intertwined, pulled by an invisible, powerful cord that stretched from their hearts. Their love became a form of divine madness, an inescapable fate compelling them despite their own desires to resist. Even after Isolde became King Mark's queen, their secret meetings continued, driven by an irresistible compulsion. They devised clever deceptions, risked everything, all because the potion's power, this mysterious, divine-like binding, left them no choice. They were bound forever, seeking each other's presence, their hearts consumed by an unquenchable fire. Brengane, the nursemaid who had inadvertently caused the catastrophe, watched in despair, understanding the terrifying power of the philter, a power that seemed to transcend human agency, as if a higher, unseen hand had intervened to ordain their tragic love. The weight of their sin and the constant threat of discovery gnawed at them, yet the spell held firm. Tristan was eventually banished from Cornwall, and Isolde remained with Mark, but their love endured across separation and time. Tristan fell ill, yearning for Isolde, believing only her touch could heal him. He sent for her with a promise that if she came, the ship would bear white sails, and if not, tragic misunderstanding of the sails caused by a jealous wife led to Tristan's death, believing Isolde had not come. When Isolde finally arrived, seeing the black sails, she knew he was gone. She rushed to his side and collapsed beside him, her heart breaking. Her death followed swiftly, a death of profound sorrow, a final act of the potion's relentless power. Even in death, their bond was recognized as extraordinary. King Mark, consumed by grief, and finally understanding the depth of their tragic love, had them buried side by side. According to the legend, from Tristan's grave grew a vine that stretched across to Isolde's intertwining, Around her tomb, a symbolic representation of their eternal, unbreakable bond. This was a final, undeniable sign of their destiny. A love so powerful it transcended death, rooted in a divine or supernatural intervention that had bound their souls in a way no earthly force could ever undo. Their story, retold through centuries of ballads and romances, remains a powerful, haunting testament to a love that was not chosen but divinely or supernaturally ordained, and utterly inescapable.